Are we starting?
Is he scratching his ass?
Yeah.
What's up, fellas? What's going on?
Hey.
All right.
Are we recording?
Crack that you guys do.
Always.
We're always recording.
All right, let's go.
All right, and welcome back to the WatchTower podcast, a new podcast brought to you by Tower Productions on our new TowerCast podcast network. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. Today, we're doing a very special episode. I'm very excited about this, talking about this film. Before we get into the film, I want to introduce my co-host, John Eric Castro.
What's going on, fellas and fellettes? We have an interesting episode today.
And Mr. Christian Yokomoto, my other co-host.
Oh, wait, hello there.
We also want to introduce Michael Della, our trusty producer, also going to be commenting on the film today.
Hello.
Oh, man.
And last but not least, we have our other trusty producer, Mr. Austin Young, making sure we're sounding good and looking good.
Editor
out there.
Yo.
Cool. So,
Your voice is always so soothing in these podcasts.
I appreciate it.
So who picked today's film, man? It was a weird one.
I don't know, man. I don't know who picked today's film.
Well, let's look at the director. We can find out.
Is this your favorite one, Carlos? Is this like your favorite?
So today we're talking about Martin Scorsese's 2011 adventure drama film.
Wait,
Hugo.
2009.
2011, no? Yeah, 2011.
Whoa,
2011?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
We need a fact check now.
Okay, rolling that back. Whoa, 2011.
Keep that.
The film was released in the U.S. It actually premiered at the New York Film Festival October of 2011, and the wide release was November of 2011. We're doing Martin Scorsese's Hugo. If you get looking on YouTube, I have my DVD here. I don't have this film on Blu-ray. I wish I did, but thankfully, it's on Netflix. I've had it on there for like 2-3 years.
Oh, yeah, he has the Blu-ray.
Yokomoto's got the Blu-ray.
Got the goods.
Now this film is based on the invention of Hugo Cabaret, Selznick book. It's a pretty thick book, man. It's really cool.
Hey, you gotta lend me that book.
Written by Brian Selznick, and even the illustrations are amazing.
I haven't seen the inside of it.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's fantastic. The minute I saw the film and I loved the film, I was like, I got to get the book. It derives a little bit, but it's pretty consistent. And as I said earlier, the film was directed by the great Martin Scorsese.
All right, people. So let's go on, man. Yokomoto, what you think of the film, man?
The great Martin Scorsese did this film. This is actually a really good book if you guys can pick it up. It's called Martin Scorsese: A Journey. His personal biographer followed him around for years.
Isn't it a shame we're not a book review podcast?
It has a foreword by Steven Spielberg, who we're also going to talk about later on the podcast. So really good book. I really highly recommend it. Anyways, to answer your question, Castro, I was the one that suggested this film. It is my favorite Martin Scorsese film, as everybody who's heard any episode on the podcast. He's my favorite director of all time. I think he's the most talented storyteller of all time. And this film really shows like his love for cinema and his appreciation for cinema and the origins of cinema.
That's it for sure. It's a love letter to cinema.
It's a love letter to cinema. Yeah, I really think so too, Yokomoto. And when you're the way this film came about for him was he has a daughter who's, I think she's like 20 at this point. She's not very very old in age. She's very young, in fact. And at the time, if I'm not mistaken, she was like 9 or 10. And,
about 10 years ago,
yeah, about 9-10 years ago, and she was the inspiration. Like, Scorsese said, I want to do a picture for my daughter. I want to do a film for my daughter. I want to do something that my daughter can see, because naturally all of his films are either filled with violence or have curse words 257 times or whatever the record was.
Or an Italian guy, named Tony with a gun. Yeah,
with a gun. Yeah,
Tony.
And
just one little side note here.
And I think that's, I don't know if that's why I like this one the most. I know the easiest answer, honestly, is that this film gives me that sense of adventure, that sense of being a kid and experiencing an adventure. Mm-hmm. And when a film can do that for me, when it makes me feel something out of my element, when it makes me feel like I'm I'm thrown into the story and I can really capture that feeling that they want to evoke, that gets me, man. And this film does that to me every single time. My brother introduced this film to me when we were kids, and I didn't get it back then. He just thought, hey, I heard this film's really cool. We should watch it. And we watched it. And
did you go to the theater or did you watch it?
Yeah, we went to the theater. And I mean, visually, it's obviously very, very captivating. And 9 years ago, I was what?
9.
Yes, 9. I was 9.
And
no, but I was kind of in my teens and I kind of didn't get it. I kind of was like, well, okay, that was pretty cool, but okay. But it always stuck with me. And then when I started falling in love with cinema and I started falling in love with Martin Scorsese, it came back to me. And when you rewatch it when you're older and when you can appreciate cinema, it's a whole nother ball game, man.
Oh yeah.
One question: did you get to see it in 3D?
I think we did see it in 3D. I think that was the whole that year and those specific years were.
Oh, that's true. That's
3D was the thing.
Kind of
was booming.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Naturally, Avatar was building a lot of hype because it was coming out in 3D, but it was a new type of 3D. My brother and I were obsessed with like the Spy Kids franchise when we were kids, and I remember when we saw Spy Kids 3D. It was very gimmicky, it was very gimmicky, and you still had the blue and red.
Blue glasses, yeah.
Yeah, you still had the blue and red, but with Hugo and kind of that era, 2010s and on, it was a different type of 3D capture. So the way that they captured 3D was much more innovative, and that's all thanks to James Cameron. That's a big tribute to James Cameron because he's the one that developed the technology for it.
Yeah, this new era of 3D that we kind of got ushered into was because of James Cameron and his
and the Avatar.
In
fact, I want to give a little fun fact. Scorsese screened Hugo for James Cameron.
Oh wow!
And James Cameron called the movie a masterpiece and told Marty that it was the best use of 3D he had ever seen, including his own movies.
Oh,
wow.
So that's big. I mean, considering James Cameron's like the master of 3D, right?
I like how you just casually called him Marty.
One of the best ones.
Marty.
It's Marty. Come on.
You're pretty good, Marty.
He sees him every
pal.
week or something.
He's my pal. No.
Way to go, McFly.
Before I geek out even further, I know that De Lao and Castro, this was the first time you guys had ever seen this film. I can't believe I had never screened it for you before. I know I screened it for Austin, and I sat Eric Sanchez down and screened it for him because he couldn't believe me either on why this was my favorite Scorsese picture. But I want to hear you guys' take. What was your take on this film?
Well, you put it beautifully, man. It's a love letter to film. I really, really saw you in this one, man. I saw you in 2 scenes. I saw you the first one where he gives them back the book and it's all burnt, supposedly the book. Oh my God, that's the first time it hit me like,
yeah.
Wow, pretty emotional. And then the second one is what's his name? Ben Kingsley?
Ben Kingsley, yeah.
When he's directing everybody, when he's doing the whole the Man to the Moon thing.
So good. So my favorite montage in
yes.
That montage is just beautiful. It's hard.
And it just shows you what it was back then. Like now you're directing, a little bit more sophisticated. Back then it was just like yanking on things,
And we gotta talk about his cameo. Martin Scorsese's cameo in that scene. Did you guys catch it?
No.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese comes a photographer.
Show it.
He's a photographer.
No way. Oh, that's crazy.
Let me bring it up.
It was in the montage
in the montage of Star Pictures and the George Méliès flashback. Yeah, that's Martin Scorsese, the photographer. Let me pull it up for you. But anyways, keep going on that front, Castro.
No. What did you think, Delo?
I really liked it, and similar to like what you were saying earlier, just any film that's able to give you that kind of like wonder and mystery, it's like that childlike mystery. I mean, it's a hidden gem, because
I think that's the best word is wonder.
Yeah,
it can give you wonder. Yeah.
I guess being in the kind of realm that we are as like filmmakers, and a lot of times, sometimes you can get caught up in like, how do I do that shot? Or how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or, oh, it's cool how they did this. Like, I could see myself wanting to use that. But there was early on when Hugo is running through the guess, back walls of the clock, and he's going like up and down stairs and all that kind of stuff. The camera goes in these really obscure positions that just kind of floats around and then like follows him down tunnels. And they even have at the very beginning.
I don't know that Robert Richardson, which is the cinematographer for this film, I don't know that he had ever done a style like that. That's all Marty. Marty loves floating cameras. Marty likes wonders. Marty, So I don't know that Robert Richardson had ever done something like this, but he pulled it off. Whatever he did, man.
Yeah, no, that first shot that you could tell like it was a like a CG composite where it's a camera going through a train station and then people are like floating by and all that.
Yeah, there you go, Castro. I can't share the screen. Austin has that disabled, but
totally missed them.
Oh, wow.
That's him. That's Martin
That's crazy.
as the photographer in front of the studio. Yeah, dude.
That's super cool.
So
but
cool.
that first shot where like the camera's going down and you're seeing the people kind of flash by and they're all like in the humdrum and commotion of things.
Yeah.
And then it kind of floats up into Hugo looking through the glass and all that. It was such a cool shot. And I mean,
how do you think they pulled that off?
It's a lot of special effects and a lot more skill than we have.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's an illustration in the book that I know Marty kind of got directly from. Let me see if I can find it. It's the actual like Hugo looking through the clock shot, which is kind of like the poster shot too.
Oh yeah.
And that's directly from the book. If you guys can see kind of like
the foot.
Hey, hold on. I think Yokomoto went out.
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the shots, like if you see the illustrations, that's Méliès at the toy counter. A lot of the shots were definitely inspired by see the little door, kind of side door that he goes in through.
Just a lot of love and respect for like the illustrations in the book. I mean, when you if you ever see the book, all the illustrations are like hand drawn, and I mean it's really well done, and you can definitely see that kind of care in the movie, especially when you can catch like the clips where you think like, oh, I remember seeing that in the book or so. It's really fun to kind of like catch. I was able to read a little bit of the book, but along with that, I'm sorry.
Odd not odd, but what's interesting about this book is that it really does have a following with young adults and teenagers. I had never heard of it prior to the film, but it really does have a following, and it does have an appreciation. Oh, this is the shot I'm talking about. So if you see, like, there's the clock, right?
Okay.
That's the main clock, and then on the next page you see Hugo's eye through the 5.
That's nice.
And I think in the film, it's actually like a little different, like his eye is through the 3 or something like that. Oh. But just those details, man, that the book obviously captures the imagination
and then, like you said, seeing it when you're more into film or when you're older, you get a different kind of appreciation for it. Because I remember hearing about the film coming out too, and it wasn't like at the top of my list. I don't know. I just didn't really see the thing behind it. But then seeing it now, and also after studying like film and a little bit of the history and hearing about like Georges Méliès and like what he did for cinema, and then when the characters find out like, wait a minute, Georges Méliès is like my grandfather, then like you're having a little moment like, oh my god, that's so cool. Yeah, like
you're there with the kids, like
like what?
Yes, dude, yes. And you know what? Like, I want to kind of point that out when it comes to like the brief history of film that this film gives you. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing that it takes you from the Lumiere brothers.
Yeah.
The Lumiere brothers is people arriving in the factory and the train. And
you think that actually happened? Like people were getting scared of like.
Castro, we learned about this in film school. You were in the class with me.
But I don't feel like I think they exaggerated that part.
I've heard
that's
it's up for debate.
Yeah,
it's up for debate, but I have heard that with that film, people did scream and were shocked, but it wasn't by them thinking a train was coming in.
It was
but
by the spectacle.
Yeah, they had never seen anything like that before. Like they had never seen projection and stuff like that before. So their like shock what came from the fact that they had never seen a motion picture before. But it wasn't. Yeah.
The Lumiere brothers. I mean, they don't get the credit they really deserve, man. They're everybody accredits either the Lumiere brothers or Thomas Edison as like the godfathers of cinema. I think it's the Lumiere brothers. I give more credit to the Lumiere brothers. Thomas Edison basically patented the business side of cinema. He made Nickelodeons.
See, I know that from class.
From what?
I know that from class.
Oh, okay, yeah. Like he did the Nickelodeons, which you'd feed a nickel into, and you would see little short films in these little machines, little mechanisms, and he made money off of them, and he patented, and that's why people think he's the one that created it. But I really do attribute the Lumiere brothers for it, because they were what a lot of like our documentary cinema teachers would tell us. The first film were documentary; they weren't narrative. Mm-hmm. So the train arriving at the station and the people leaving the factory, the Lumiere factory, they're documentaries. That's what they are. Like that's what it is. And so it takes you from the Lumiere brothers through the Great Train Robbery, which was a very, very important narrative film in the history of cinema. And you even see like Marty pays tribute to that film even in Goodfellas. The very last shot of Goodfellas is Joe Pesci shooting directly at the camera.
Yeah,
and that's an homage to the Great Train Robbery. The guy shooting at the camera. That's
pretty
what
good.
That is.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So it takes you through that, and then it takes you through obviously the special effects, Georges Méliès kind of era, and mind you, none of this is American cinema. This is all French and foreign cinema that really kicked it off. I remember what I love about Hugo is like when we were in film school and we were in Robert Avant-Miere's class. I remember he showed us a documentary, and it's like an 11-part documentary that I highly recommend called thank you for that, Yokomoto. That's the cameo. That's my man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just found the cameo, put it on the screen for those.
Yeah,
I can't believe I missed it. It's crazy.
They in film school, or in this particular class, we watched this documentary called The Story of Film and Odyssey. And it's like an 11-part, 1 hour per episode documentary on the full scope of like cinema, and not just American cinema, but world cinema. And they take you through like the Lumiere brothers through present time. And I remember like, I'd get pieces of that and I'd be like, Hugo taught me that. Like I know this because of Hugo. And it really was because of Hugo that I knew this stuff, at least the brief history of it before being exposed to it on a detated level.
Yeah.
When I got to see the movie, it was like right after I had some film classes in college.
Okay.
So like I had already once the twist was there that you learn about Georges Méliès and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I just heard about all this.
Yeah.
It
was the opposite for you, right? Like I for me it was I saw Hugo, I learned about it through Hugo, and then eventually. So let's talk about this film, man. I like that perspective, Delao and Castro. I love how I'm thankful that you guys are saying like, oh, I saw you in it, because that's what I want to evoke. I want to evoke this feeling that whatever the picture is, whatever story I'm trying to tell, I want to evoke a feeling in it, and I want people to feel something through it, and whether it's heartbreak or whether it's adventure, or whether it's this sense of falling in love, which even these two kids, man, Ozza Butterfield and Chloë Grace Moretz, who are very, very talented actors. Chloë Grace Moretz, she went into this audition with a British accent so that they wouldn't tell that she was American. And it wasn't until she got casted that Marty discovered she's not British. She went in with that dedication, and obviously she's made a career out of this, and great films like Kick-Ass and a bunch of other indie drama films that she's done a really good job in. And Ozza Butterfield, man, I mean, a fantastic actor. Castro, if I'm not mistaken, you were an extra in a film that he was the lead in, right?
Oh, wow. Yes.
That's Ozza Butterfield. Yeah.
He was older now. He was much older.
Oh, well, yeah, naturally. I think it was a sci-fi film, right? I forget which. I remember you.
Space Between Us.
The Space Between Us. The Space Between Us. So,
wow.
I was hitting on the girl, the other girl. Yeah. Everybody, I came back from break and everybody was out, and I kept looking at her like, trying to, and she kind of smiled, and my brother saw too.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I almost had a chance.
There you go. I mean, look, Ozza Butterfield has become an absolutely fantastic actor, and he's done. I mean, he's heavily well known for The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, obviously, but he's done a bunch of other films and series that are fantastic.
Oh, you know who blew me away? Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah. Wow. I've only seen him as Borat, or he's crazy at characters. This one was pretty good.
Sacha Baron Cohen is amazing in this picture, and it just shows you that he's not
trying to hit on the girl.
Not just Bruno. The guy can act, and
give me your best smile.
Yeah,
I said your best smile.
yeah.
Oh, I love at the end when she's like, "Oh, don't forget to smile." He's like, "Oh, I've mastered 3. Which one do you want?" And he just like 3 awkward.
It's so
That was
good.
brilliant.
And obviously Ben Kingsley as the great George Méliès.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Ben Kingsley, Hugo was Marty's film right after Shutter Island, and he, you know, Ben Kingsley was in Shutter Island and did a great job in that film too.
He's the doc.
Yeah, and
Or
you
the
know what's
Frank
awesome about this film too is the supporting. What I love about it is the train station has a life of its own. Inside the walls, it's Hugo winding the clocks and living his
It's
life.
crazy,
Outside the walls, everybody has a little story. There's even like a cameo. If you guys don't know anything about like French music or French like guitarist, Django Reinhardt is like the Johnny Depp lookalike guy that looks like the guy playing the guitar. That's Django Reinhardt, who was a very, very popular French musician, and Marty kind of threw him in there in the history of it. Jude Law obviously comes out as Mr. Cabaret, and
Who's the other guy? Who's the guy from the library? The guy that
come on, the great Christopher Lee, the great Christopher Lee, who passed away recently.
He passed away?
He passed away recently, a couple years ago.
A couple years ago, right?
Yeah,
he has like a crazy history behind him for being in like a soldier and all that. Like we could have a whole conversation about just him.
Just on Christopher Lee. And I love when directors are able to get great actors like Christopher Lee and give them this small part, but such a heartfelt, important part.
Yeah.
And I love when they can do that. And Christopher Lee so graciously played Monsieur Labisse.
Him being such a great actor, like that role that he has could have been just a throwaway role for anybody, but he just gives it that, like, you could say that panache.
It kind of reminds me of the new Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with the dad.
Oh yeah.
You know, it just reminds me of that like heartfelt kind of moment that they share at the end, and that's just who his character is. Mm-hmm. And when he gives him the book, when they bump into each other and he gives Hugo the book. This was intended for my godson, but now Monsieur Cabaret, I think it's intended for you.
Oh man,
just so good, man. So good.
I love the scene. One of my favorite scenes is when they finally he shows her the film, and he's cranking it up, and they see it.
Oh yeah,
and then he's right there. Like, I could hear.
That's another actor, and he recently came out in The Shape of Water, and he recently came out and Call Me by Your Name.
He also was in A Serious Man, which is a fantastic film if you haven't seen it. And
what's his name?
But he as an actor, it just does amazing performances. And the few times that I have seen
everything I've seen him in. His name is Michael Stahlberg, and he plays the dad. The scene in Call Me by Your Name with Timothée Chalamet and his dad, him. That monologue that he delivers in Call Me by Your Name is just amazing. It's a fantastic monologue. And
he surprised me, man.
And I saw him in Shape of Water too, and I loved him. I'll see him in anything he does. He's really good.
Man in Black 3 too, but
A Serious Man will Joel and Ethan Coen brothers. So very talented cast, very talented side characters. You know, the lady with the dog and the older gentleman who wanting to approach her, but the dogs don't like him, and then he finally gets a female dog, and
I felt like that was that little like side story. It kind of made you appreciate the simplicity of those kind of like non-verbal, like even like the silent era, like style of filmmaking or style of storytelling, because you don't have to see them having a conversation, know what they want. Just
I think that's a very European way of telling stories.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what he was going for, because that you see that in French cinema and you see that in Italian cinema, where you have these little, I recently saw Federico Fellini's Roma, and there's this whole scene, like 10, 15-minute scene where the camera is just constantly traveling between table to table at an Italian restaurant, and you get to hear the stories that people are talking about in their own lives. And it's just a very European way, almost like cinema verite, like you're just kind of on a fly on the wall in these stories. And I love that. I love that Marty was able to incorporate that into he's a lover of foreign cinema. If you don't know anything about Marty, he's a lover of foreign cinema.
Also, what I like about these split parts is that for me, it makes it feel like the train station is its own world in itself.
Yes. Yeah,
and by having all these,
we see these establishing
spotlights
shots of beautiful Paris and the Eiffel Tower, and it's like, no, we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the train station and what Hugo can see outside his window, which is like Paris, the most beautiful city in the world, but he's stuck inside these walls, winding the clocks, and he's not able to go out and experience the city the way he probably wants to. You know, I love it.
It's such an interesting message. Like, I mean, I think the one reason I wasn't also attracted to the film at first when I heard about it is because you hear of a lot of children's films that come out, and I think we've all seen like the cliches that happen in children's film where they learn the message and the meaning, and then they go and like save their puppy, and you're just like, oh, well, that's cute,
special.
And you know, there are certain films that just do it so elegantly that you're able to just really feel the heart and warmth of the film. And I feel like Hugo did that really well. Absolutely. Like, I mean, that whole idea of like finding purpose, and everybody has like, you know, their purpose in life, and maybe we're broken if we've lost that purpose. And then
I hate his uncle, his drunk uncle, man. It's like,
and then he's just found dead on the side of the Seine.
Yeah.
No,
turns out he was actually dead. He wasn't acting.
You're absolutely right, Delao. I it's one of my favorite things about this film is we see the heart of this character, and we see the heart of what Marty's trying to do in a children's film, nonetheless, in a children's, you know, adaptation of something, is almost like trying to teach kids about cinema without forcing it. You know what? I think it did for kids what it did for like adults when they first watch cinema in general, is that there's a magic behind films and a magic that we're all trying to capture. I mean, George Méliès's thing, his line on right before the montage starts of like the films that, you know, Trip to the Moon and all these films that he did, where he says, "Come dream with me," and then he takes off the top hat and it's him on the camera. It's just so good, dude.
Yeah, and so it's good. Just there was like, when cinema first came out, we've always heard about there being this magic behind it that people were so confused, like, how did they accomplish that? That's amazing. And I think over time we kind of lose that magic, and now we're in like the logistical elements of like filmmaking and storytelling. But like even when I was writing the notes for the film, like I wrote down like maybe like 2 notes because I just got like entranced with the way it was telling the story and the way it was delivering everything, where then you're just caught up in the actual magic of filmmaking and the actual magic of the story being told, where it's kind of like, I don't know how they did that, but it's amazing to see that. And it's amazing to kind of like experience a little bit of magic with them. And I think that's something that very few films have been able to do, at least recently. And for something that was made in like 2011, I mean, it holds up, you know, really well.
I think so too. And I think like I've said this before, I think Marty does a very good job of using the technology that's at hand and not being afraid of that technology and not being afraid of those tools to be able to tell this beautiful story that he wants to tell. And he certainly did that with 3D. He certainly did that with the cinematography of this and just being able to do that. What's very cool about this particular story and all the tools he used is the basis of the automaton, right? Which is the mechanical man,
the robot.
How to him it's sorry guys, give me a second. To him it's his connection to his last connection to his father, the automaton. But for Chloe Grace's character, she wants this sense of adventure that she's never found before, you know, and that she's limited because she's very much protected by Méliès or her godparents, and the key on her neck, that is the thing that's going to activate this automaton and shows what all the puzzle pieces that are missing. I just think it's beautiful that this particular thing comes around full circle. He gets rid of it because of his disappointment, because of the war, because people not seeing his films, and then it comes back around to Hugo's dad finding it, and then Hugo's dad leaving it, Hugo picking it up, trying to fix it, and it goes back, wraps around to my automaton, my most precious possession, because it taught me what to do. I mean, even in the flashback, he talks about how he built a camera from the automaton parts, you know, and that's what kicked off his career, you know. And I think it's beautiful that the illustration here is that George Méliès was a magician that became a filmmaker, because that's what a filmmaker in his nature is, right? You're trying to fool the audience to see something that might not necessarily be true, right? I just love that aspect of this story. It really, really love it.
Yeah, one of the things that like really got in my heartstrings, especially once George, Papa George, like he actually sits down and watches the film and starts talking about his experience.
Yeah.
Like it always like breaks my heartstrings in a way, because that type of story always gets me, because like just a little bit of reference. There's this documentary called Lost in La Mancha, which when I see it, it's for me it's like the worst thing to happen, because just seeing how, because it's about Terry Gilliam's failed attempt to
do the man who killed Don Quixote. Yeah,
man who killed Don Quixote. And it's all these things that he had to go through and just ultimately fail the project. And seeing that documentary always like gets me, like, because that's the worst thing that could happen to a creative person, especially with all that passion. And then you hear his story, the story here with George Méliès, and how he just found a great tragedy because of the First World War. And had to like. I
mean, it's the worst thing that could happen to him.
Yes.
And it just shows you the trajectory of cinema too, because the trajectory of cinema is after the war. One of the things that's not entirely true about this film is that the Great Depression, both in American cities and worldwide, that it affected cinema. That's not necessarily true. In fact, more people were going to the movies. What happened was that the realism of the war was affecting the people's perspective of movies. They didn't want to see Laurel and Hardy comedies anymore. They didn't want to see Chaplin films. They wanted to see the reality of what they were seeing in the war. So all these fun kind of imaginative films weren't getting their attention anymore. They wanted more realism. And sorry, go ahead.
Have as a reference is that when 9/11 happened in our era.
Sure.
Like right there was a whole different aspect to movies right after that, and we got this new type of look at real cinema, and I guess that's what actually happened at that time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that's why it shows a really cool kind of setup of the trajectory of cinema, and you know what's cool is when Chloe Grace's character says, "I've never been to the movies," and he takes her to the movies, and the film that they watched in and of itself is an homage to cinema. I'm trying to get the name. I don't know the name. It's Harold Lloyd's Safety Last. And you can YouTube this film. It's the classic shot of him hanging from the clock. And if you've seen like behind the scenes, you see how they pulled that off. How that was just in the soundstage, but it looks like they're outside.
Yeah, they have like a picture and they just
yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it is. And it's Safety Last, a very classic, important film in cinema history for just based off its practical effects. I just love all of those tells, man. I love all of those tells. I love that George Méliès's kind of introduction to cinema, at least in the film, is like, my brother brought me to the soundstage once, and the critic is, I got to meet him, you know, and when he took him to the studio, that's like, I see a reflection of us, because now we grow up. If we ever experienced a moment like that, like, that's what keeps me going. Like, to be able to meet my heroes, like to be able to meet Kevin Smith and be able to meet Robert Rodriguez and Brett Ratner, like I got to do that. I'm so grateful for that. And that keeps me going. Like, I got to meet my heroes and they were actually nice. I want to be like them. I want to be that filmmaker that says hi to the next kid, you know, and is kind enough to that kid. And when he takes them to like his place and says, this is an official camera that he used on set. This is his chair. This is the Star Studio sign. This is I was able to save so many of these films, but I can't find any more. All of that, I see a reflection of us as filmmakers and our obsession with cinema and our rooms and our places and the stuff we keep and the stuff we hold dear to our hearts. I think Marty was a kid on this film set. For those of you that don't know, Martin Scorsese, the biggest reason why I admire him, it's not necessarily his filmmaking abilities. Now, hold on. I know that's going to sound weird. It's because
Yes.
he appreciates and loves cinema so much. Martin Scorsese is in charge, is in fact founded the film restoration.
Oh wow.
The entity that is in charge of restoring old films and finding old films, celluloid, so that they can restore them and preserve them. That's his heart. Like that's all he ever wanted to do, is get the old films that he remembers as a kid that they can't find anymore, and try to find a print of it, even if it's all crappy, and restore it and try to save it for future generations. And I swear, like I know you guys aren't obsessed with him as I am, but see any interview with him when he talks about any movie, even if it's his own, he references 20 other films from the past that inspired this film.
That's true.
And Leo has gone on record, like Leo and Robert De Niro and all the guys he's worked with, like they say, why do you like working with Marty? Like you've been on 6 pictures with him, you've been on 10 pictures with him. And it's because because he's an encyclopedia of cinema. Like you can sit down for hours and you're going to learn something from Marty. Like he's going to teach you what cinema really is and what it means to him. And if you're not on the same page with him, you know, it's going to be a nightmare being on set. Like you really do have to appreciate what he's going for. So that's the biggest reason why I love him as a storyteller. And you really do see that in this film. So talking about the cinematography a little bit more, I'd really like to dig into that because
well, you're talking about that, Scorsese. I remember in The Wolf of Wall Street when Jonah Hill was trying to do a scene with Leo, and he didn't say anything. They just kept recording like each one different. So he's like, you know what? Sit down with me. Let's read the newspaper.
Yeah. And
then it's like, all right, are you ready? You're like, well, we just read the newspaper. Like, no, now you're in the zone. Get in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to be in his vibe.
Yeah, he has to. And I've seen a lot of behind the scenes and a lot of interviews where people say, when you walk on a Martin Scorsese set, you come with this extra like presence. You come with this extra like I can't mess up. I can't mess up on his set. And everybody says he just brings this presence that when you're talking to him, you know he takes his job seriously.
It's the eyebrows.
It's the eyebrows. I think it's the thickness of the eyebrows too. No, but yeah, I think everybody knows that when you're on a Scorsese set, like it's something special and it's something that can't be replicated. And
I can only imagine, man, the nerves, dude. Just
you know, I love like people like Steven Spielberg, who him and Spielberg have been friends for years. They've known each other since the 70s, and Spielberg has gone on to say, I compare Martin Scorsese to the likes of guys like Orson Welles and Alfred Hitchcock, because
he's getting there, for sure. He's there already.
He says, you know, I love what Spielberg says. He's like, Scorsese has this thing. He can make a Martin Scorsese picture.
True.
He says only Hitchcock can make a Hitchcock picture. You know, only Kubrick can make a Kubrick picture. He's like, I'm not that guy. I make like all different types of pictures and I'm kind of a chameleon. But only Marty, I wish, I'm so jealous of Marty. Like I compare him to those great directors because only he can make a Scorsese picture and I envy him.
I mean, Todd Phillips kind of came in a close second.
What?
This game with the Joker, Todd Phillips Joker, and it's great homage to Dexter.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? No, but
well, Carlos, if you would have to like define Scorsese as a auteur, how would you describe him?
Define him as an auteur.
He is, right? I mean, that's what nobody can make him feel like.
Certainly, that's what makes an auteur is for him to have his own style and.
So, what do you think his style is? Like, I'm not trying to like paint it on like Casino or anything. Just his. I mean,
base,
I guess his foundation.
On the surface level, his tales, his classic one-ers, his classic dolly and camera movements, his classic use of voiceover. The use of breaking the fourth wall, all of that is kind of classic Martin Scorsese staples on the surface. Right. But I think
screenplays is also kind of like really like very distinct at the same time also.
Yeah, and I think that distinction is what I want to reference is like I think more than that, Castro, whatever picture he's gonna make, he always has this sensibility of like I have to honor what came before me. And I think you see that in his films more than anybody else's. And I think the people who are like, he's the hero of, like me, other directors like Paul Thomas Anderson and Edgar Wright, and all these people who love Scorsese, like they honor the work that came before them, and that's what makes them really good filmmers. And Marty does that better than anybody. If he's going to make Shutter Island, then he's going to study all of the Billy Wilder noir pictures that he wants to incorporate takes of. If
That's
he's
right,
going
you
to
could see
do
it in this one too.
an adventure film, he's going to watch Sullivan's Travels from early days. He's going to watch all of these adventure pictures, Ben-Hur, all these pictures that inspired him.
Yeah.
You can go on the internet and find Martin Scorsese's top 10 films, like his top 10 favorite films. A good section of that are Fellini films and Alfred Hitchcock films. Like they're the majority of the films. He's a big Hitchcock fan. But because Hitchcock is saying, like he studied cinema and he knew what he wanted for his pictures, and I think that's what Marty is. Marty is classified, he's pigeonholed to people who don't really know him as, and I know you joke, Castro, but he's pigeonholed into like, oh, the mob guy. He's the mob guy.
Because that's what they're introduced to.
Yeah, that's what they know him for, right? But
exactly, those are his first kind of.
Those are the same people who haven't seen films like Hugo, films like Silence, films like The Last Temptation of Christ and The Age of Innocence. Taxi Driver, obviously a great one. People who haven't like the what?
Oh yeah,
The Aviator.
The Aviator. Oh my gosh! I mean,
okay, easy fella.
Speaking of like cinema, like The Aviator is all about a filmmaker who went crazy. I mean, that's really all.
Yeah.
That's
was
really,
he the one that was obsessed with washing his hands?
Washing his hands. He had OCD. Yeah, Howard.
You might want to see the film. Yeah.
Which, by the way, my favorite Leo performance of all time.
I think that was the first one, right? Like he did with him. Okay.
It was Gangs of New York. He did Gangs of New York, and then
that's true.
He did Gangs of New York, then he did The Aviator. But yeah, there's people who haven't seen Gangs of New York,
Oh, dude.
And they don't see like Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in that, and
favorite Daniel Day-Lewis performances.
Yeah, I mean that's the standout thing, right? But just the fact that like even that film, and hopefully we get to talk about it too, but even that film, think about this for a second. In Gangs of New York, not only did he build the set, but they shot Gangs of New York in Italy in the same studio that Federico Fellini shot his film.
Oh, see the little,
it's just that being that and on that set, and I'm sure Marty was like, let's build the. In fact, his set designer, his set builder was an Italian guy who works with him till this day, who used to work for Fellini, and it's the same set designer and set builder. Oh, yeah. So I love that. I just love how you can honor and respect the people that came before you. Scorsese's a very big Kurosawa fan. And in fact, he came out in a Kurosawa film, one of his last ones called Dream.
Really?
Yeah, he makes a cameo playing Vincent van Gogh in Akira Kurosawa's Dreams.
I want to get to that level, dude.
And it's Kurosawa, but because Kurosawa in his later years was kind of forgotten. And it was guys like Scorsese and George Lucas that would like find
they always
funding.
mention him. They
would find funding to get Kurosawa to be able to make his later films. So I just love that about him. And so to wrap that kind of answer to your question, Castro, I think nobody comes close to Scorsese when it comes to honoring cinema the way he does, and honoring the craft, and honoring just how long you have to study and appreciate films.
And Hugo's a perfect example of that, man. Perfect example.
Yeah, the simple fact that now that he actually did you could say a kids film or family film with this one.
Yeah.
Basically, at this point, he has done every single genre. He has worked with everything.
Yeah, what I love is that it's not
Art House.
Yes. Have you seen?
Silence.
I think Silence. Yeah, Silence is considered an art house picture. I was gonna say he did a short film with Nick Nolte for a film called New York Stories, where Nick Nolte plays like this painter. And it's super art house, super definitely his short films are more art house. Definitely watch Scorsese short films. They're super art house.
Does that one Josh Hartnett come out in it? Josh Hartnett? No,
I don't think Josh Hartnett's ever come out in it.
No. Scorsese. I remember the poster for that one. I thought I saw him.
For New York Stories?
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, it's a trilogy film. It's a trilogy with Woody Allen, Francis Ford Coppola, and Martin Scorsese, and it's 3 stories that take place in New York, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
Oh, that's what it's called. I remember hearing about it, but I never actually.
Yeah,
I have it. I think I'll let you borrow it, Yokomoto. I have it somewhere. But yeah, nobody comes close, man. And to give you a little bit of history on Marty, he had asthma, or he has asthma. And so when he was a kid, he wasn't allowed to play sports. He wasn't allowed to go out and play. He would have to just look out his window basically and like see all the other kids play.
Like Castro.
Another Hugo thing right there.
And what inspired him to become a filmmaker is that he started drawing because he had nothing else to do. And his parents, because they felt bad for him that he couldn't go out and play, they would take him to the movies. So that's how his love for cinema began, because he had asthma and he couldn't do a lot of things. In fact,
because in those times, like, it's basically or you go out or you go.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a let me see if I can find it. There's a drawing that he did. He sketched out a whole film. I found it here. Let me share my screen here.
He's about to find
you
out
guys
that
are
he can't
watching
share
on
screen.
YouTube.
Oh wow!
So this whole thing was it was something that Martin Scorsese drew and painted and colored, and it was called The Eternal City, CinemaScope, 75 millimeter. He drew all this as a kid. This was his first. He accredits this being his first film because he drew this story out.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the whole story.
So I thought it's really cool. 11-year-old Martin Scorsese drawing, you know.
For those
More than I did at 11.
It looks like an Egyptian hero.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It looks like Egyptian drawings.
Egyptian drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows exactly kind of what he wanted. I mean, think about that. As a kid, I was never this talented or like driven to do something like this.
You never know. The aliens probably came down and gave it to him. Dude.
Right, directed and produced by Martin Scorsese.
That's beautiful, man. That's when you know you're gonna be like.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit of history behind it. But anyways, in terms of Hugo, what I love about this film too is that the film it barely broke even in the box office.
Did it win like anything for like animation?
I don't even think it got nods.
I don't think it got nominated.
No, not even a nod.
No, it did get nominated, and it did win some actually. Let's talk about that.
It won Best Visual Effects.
It just depends on the year of the movies that year.
It won Best Cinematography for Robert.
Best cinematography, Best Art Direction.
It won Best Art Direction. It won Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Editing, Sound Mixing.
Okay.
And
And it was nominated for another 3 Oscars.
It was nominated for Best Editing. It was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay. It was nominated for Best Original Score. The score for this film, man, it reminds me so much of the Ratatouille score.
I was going to say
it hits home
because it's the French setting too and whatnot.
Yeah,
I think it's just the score for me. It was by Howard Shore. We talked about Howard Shore recently. I think he did one of the films we talked about recently. Was it? Not sure. We talked about him recently.
I wouldn't know.
Might have. Oh, Silence of the Lambs.
Talk to me about
Silence of the Lambs. He did the score for Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah. So in terms of the cinematography, I want to show this. If you guys haven't seen this, it's really cool. If you're listening out there, try to check out the YouTube portion for this.
What are you gonna show us?
There's this behind the scenes Steadicam thing that's super innovative. That I love that they did in Hugo. And if you haven't seen it, it's like a side by side of like what they shot and what actually comes out on the picture.
Oh, okay. I love this.
And I love this particular thing, man. Like I'm gonna
This is the last scene, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah.
Right?
What the
That's
hell?
the last scene. The final
that's
scene.
nice. Yeah, when they already they already gave him the award for George Méliès for this recognition and all.
What are they on? What are they on?
All the characters.
What do you mean?
It's
Like,
a rig.
how is the camera moving?
Like a
Is it
steady.
walking?
It's like a Steadicam rig. Crane.
So it's on a guy. So it's on a person or on a cart or whatever.
I think it's on a person.
It's too big.
No. That's a very wide.
3D.
That's like an action cam or something on it. Like it's not that wide. It's just that it's so close. You can even see the brim of the hat on the bottom right corner. So it's on a Steadicam.
Yeah, and it's a 3D camera, so you do have the 2 lenses.
Yeah.
On the camera itself.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's just so cool.
The blocking, super impressive.
Yes.
The cinematography, man, everybody moving.
So yeah, the blocking is absolutely incredible. And then we see Hugo becoming the magician, becoming,
Yeah.
and she became the writer, which I think is super beautiful,
Oh yeah, that's true. She's the one that bookends the whole movie, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, she's basically the one that writes the book,
The final shot.
It's just beautiful.
That's so beautiful, man.
The final shot of the automaton,
And just one of the creepiest things in the movie.
Yeah, the eyes are a
Why
little
is a creepy looking automaton?
That's so interesting.
So cool.
Anyways, I just wanted to show that. I thought it was super cool.
It is. Man.
While I'm sharing my screen, I do wanna show off a little bit. So if you guys see this picture, you guys remember this particular scene in the film.
When he tells them to pick it up a little bit.
If you go to the Paramount lot,
Hey.
Oh wow, that's great.
That handsome
take it to the
fella right
archives, and they have this saved in there. This was a Paramount film. And
Can I just say, I feel terrible for anybody who's not watching this on YouTube.com.
I know, right? So I'm showing. If you're not watching, you're listening. I'm showing basically the I guess it's a dragon.
The dragon.
Yeah, it's a dragon.
It's a dragon, and next to another dragon, I guess. Oh, I mean,
it's the dragon from Hugo. Basically, they still have it saved at the Paramount archives.
That's so cool.
I got to take a picture of it when I went to the
nice.
Paramount lot, which is really cool.
Carlos, you gotta tell us the truth, man. Did you go up there and try to take like a tooth or something?
I did. I tried to take the whole thing, dude, and they were like,
Sandra's like, get down.
There's other stuff in there, man. In the archives, they have the interstellar door. They have like a chest from Amistad, Spielberg's film.
Mm-hmm.
They have the rocket from, I think it's Jackass 3.
The one that
the one that shoots out from the side. They have it there.
What?
They have from the Will Ferrell film, the skiing one, not the skiing one, the
ice skating.
Blades of Glory.
Oh, okay.
They have you can see it in the picture. Actually, watch. You can see it in the background. They have the.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
They have the.
Yes.
They have the helmet that he wore in the.
Oh, okay.
When he gets all drunk and everything.
Yeah, when he's all drunk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, we gotta review that film, dude. Just for the hell of it.
Seriously, yeah, we should. No, but yeah, it's really cool at the Paramount archives. It's really fun. So if you guys ever have a chance to go, make sure to check that out.
For sure.
Yeah. I think in terms of the cinematography, Robert Richardson, as I've mentioned before, he's kind of like Tarantino's main cinematographer. He mostly only works on Tarantino's films. And to see him do what he did in Hugo just amazes me because it's totally different.
It's beautiful.
Hey, Scorsese, what's up next for him?
Scorsese is doing a film, a Western, which is super exciting for me. He's doing Flowers of the Killer Moon. It's a book that Robert De Niro and Leo are actually going to be starring in.
Robert De Niro and Leo?
Yeah, both of them are going to be starring in Flowers of the Killer Moon. What's exciting about that picture too is it's going to be shooting in Oklahoma, in like a reservation of it's basically the story is about the FBI. I think it's the FBI's investigation or the CIA's investigation on the killing of a tribe, the killing of an Indian tribe in Oklahoma, and basically De Niro's character is going to be playing like the detective. And they're just going to be doing like an investigation on this, and it's going to be very much in the style of a Western. So they're already in pre-production for that. As I mentioned before, Martin Scorsese has asthma, so they definitely don't want to put him out right now with the current pandemic.
True.
So they want to keep him safe. He's been in his house in New York, but that's what he's working on next. He has other films that are in development. One of them is Eric Larson's new novel, Devil in the White City, which is a big hit. The novel is a big hit. It's about a killer during the New York World's Fair. A very innovative time. If you know anything about the New York World's Fair, it's basically what started Disneyland. It's basically what inspired Walt Disney to create Disneyland. And so this was this big time in New York because we held it and everybody from across the world came to it. And there was like a serial killer who was like getting people from the festival and killing them. And Marty and Leo bought the rights to the book, so they're supposed to be making that probably after Flowers of the Killer Moon.
Interesting.
But yeah, he's got a lot of projects in line, man. He was supposed to do the Frank Sinatra biopic, and that didn't happen, and that was one of my biggest disappointments.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. I think he had trouble with Sinatra's family, and they didn't want to depict certain things. And Marty, he doesn't shy away from controversy. He wants to show the drugs and the sex and the violence and
the family over there just wants to loyalty.
The fact that Frank Sinatra was involved with the mob, that he wanted to show that, and I guess they didn't want that. But anyways, I digress.
He's getting old.
But he is,
my editor, he's getting old.
Austin likes to tell me he's getting old all the time.
Oh man, perfect timing, Austin.
Marty's 77, man.
Hey, but he's still making films, man. Still
think about it.
Throwing back.
One of those directors that with the passage of time, he's still pulling out quality product.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, like whether you like them or not, there's still quality product. There's still a quality product.
You know what I love is like people like everybody talks smack about The Irishman. I get it from everybody. I don't just get it from Castro. I get it from everybody because it was long, it was boring, he was too old, whatever. This was the first time he worked with Al Pacino, and they had been wanting to work together for years. And Al Pacino, I thought, was absolutely amazing in The Irishman.
Sometimes leaving it up to the mystery is a lot better than just,
I thought Pacino was amazing in The Irishman. And,
for sure.
I thought, by the way, like nobody expected him to win. I was hoping he would, but when it was the Golden Globes, and even the guy who won, who was Sam Mendes, was like, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Scorsese. Like, I have to give him.
Same with like Bong Joon-ho, right?
Bong Joon-ho was like, Marty was a huge inspiration for me. Like, he didn't have to win the award. Just getting that recognition from the guys that won. What more can you do, man? Like,
well, yeah, but I mean, you don't see Michael Jordan playing at 55. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow. All right.
Hey, man, he's awesome.
Say that to Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood has not really made that good of a film for a while now.
Yeah, Gran Torino was kind of. American Sniper was dope.
He did make American Sniper, and I heard Richard Jewell. I haven't seen it, but I heard Richard Jewell was really good.
Because I
haven't seen it personally, but there's that one too. No, but I mean, Scorsese is still doing it, man. Like after Silence, The Irishman, they're all still great quality pictures, dude. No matter what anybody says, like
man.
Nobody can compare what he's doing.
And then he brought back that what's his name? When he came back from retirement, Joe Pesci.
He brought Joe Pesci out of retirement. That was him and
why did he stop? He was just tired of the whole.
He was just done with it. Yeah, I think after he won his Oscar for Goodfellas, and then I think he was nominated again for My Cousin Vinny.
And Home Alone, no?
I don't think he was nominated for Home Alone. But
politics, right?
I think you know what? If you guys don't know this about Joe Pesci was a singer before he was an actor.
Whoa!
He has a record out. Go YouTube it. Go YouTube it. It's called Little Joe Sings. It's called Little Joe Sings. Google it. Little Joe Sings. And I think he focused on his singing career after he stopped. Have you guys ever seen Jersey Boys? Clint Eastwood picture too. That was I love that film, dude.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci makes a cameo. Well, somebody playing Joe Pesci makes a cameo.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Joe Pesci had a lot to do with introducing the Four Seasons, right? For introducing what's his name? Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. So he introduced them to each other basically, and had everything to do with like wanting to manage them. And you see that in the film. Like Joe Pesci is the one like introducing them, and then he became this big actor. And the guy that he introduced to the other guys in that film ended up working for Joe Pesci. So now he's like Joe Pesci's assistant or something.
Yeah.
Lots of very cool history with Pesci and all of them. But as far as Hugo goes, guys, like, is there anything else you guys want to mention? Anything that noteworthy that I may have missed that you guys may?
We touched a little bit on like the cinematography and something that. If you're getting into cinematography or if you're getting into the like aspects of filmmaking, at least on the camera front, it's really impressive to see how it's done because there's multiple ways you can kind of play with the lighting and the way that the film is actually captured. And you can go for something that's very realistic, meaning that as somebody's, walking through a room, it might look a little more orange because that's the kind of lights you would see in like a room, tungsten. Sure. Or if they go out into daylight, you have a set like that. But Hugo uses lighting and the way it captures the light to express emotion. And I thought that was really masterfully done and it's very subtle. Probably a lot of people think about it, but if you look at like the contrast in like the my favorite scene of the movie was when he was having like a flashback to his father and them working on the automaton together. Yeah. And if you look behind him, which is supposed to be moonlight, but it's extremely blue, it shows the kind of cold world that he is enveloped in right now, and how just kind of like
the emptiness, his father not being there is like the warmth is gone.
Yeah. And catch that, man. That's pretty dope.
I have issues. That's why. No, but
that's like beautiful, dude. That's beautiful.
And if you look at like the orange and the kind of like fire glow that's shining on the automaton and him there when he's kind of reminiscing, it's all very warm. It's very comforting. Yeah. And it's something that you can tell definitely the cinematographer wanted to capture.
And the way he looks at it, his father.
And the whole sequence of just the colors mixing together and all that. It's something that as a viewer, you wouldn't think too much about, but it really helps sell the emotion. It really helps sell
to your
the
point,
scene.
Though, I think that you see that contrast too when the inside of Papa George's apartment, and then when we flash back to him directing, and we see, the way that they built studios back then was they would build them with glass or up glass.
That's so cool.
So that light would directly hit them, and then they could just manipulate covering the light. That's why the studio was built that way. But you see all of the light come into the studio, and the smile on his face, and the youth in his eyes, and then you cut back to the apartment, and he's just like, that's it. I'm done, and
a little bit more on that.
The lighting is muted. The lighting and the colors of the apartment are muted. The set design is muted. It's just like you wanted to forget about those times, right?
True.
It's just so beautiful that contrast. Yeah, I agree.
We're gonna add
more on that. To your point, is that the whole lighting and color scheme is very important in this movie, especially because if you're gonna film in 3D, which was this movie was intended
the way it was intended to be
to actually like make those differences dimension wise, you have to know what colors to bring up to represent what colors to do, and that is so important for a movie like this that was magnificent.
I'm probably going to reference this documentary all the time on this podcast, but the side-by-side documentary, they talk about 3D. And when they talk about 3D, there's a cinematographer. I think he was a cinematographer for Matrix. I don't know. He's kind of a prick. He's the prick of the documentary. He is, dude. Like,
well, we lost that contact. Okay.
He's kind of a jerk. He to his point, he's got a lot of great information, but he's kind of a jerk about it. But he basically says 3D, it's a cash grab, isn't it? That's all it is. It's a gimmick. It's gonna die in 5 years.
Yeah.
And James Cameron kind of rebuttals, and he's like, because they ask him, what about the realness of shooting something? He's like, when was it ever real? He's like, you had half a wall there, not really a big wall there. You had a guy on a ladder with his ass hanging out. When was it ever, any of it ever real? He's like, that's not the point. It's about the tools that you use. And that's when Marty comes in, and Marty's like, I just see 3D as another tool. Like, if you know how to use it and it fits the story you're trying to tell, just use it as a tool. And they say all that in this documentary. It's true. Like, there are some films that are cash grabs and they're gimmicky, but there are other films that the tool of 3D immerses you into that universe. Avatar is a perfect example of that. If you ever got to see Avatar in 3D, man, you're lucky. It's the way to see it.
But is it still a thing though? Like, is it like
sure? I mean,
you mean like films in 3D or
most recently, what they do is they do 3D conversions, like. The Marvel films, usually you can see a 3D screening of the Avengers.
Oh, I would like
that's how they would, present them, dude, especially the new superhero films.
I didn't know that. I know that aspect.
When you go to Disneyland, if you ever go to Disneyland or you go to Disney World, they have at Disney World, actually, they have Pandora, the world of Avatar. It's like my favorite place in that park.
Oh, I think I've been on it.
You take a ride called Flight of the Passage. And Flight of the Passage is the Avatar ride, right?
Yeah.
they make you wear 3D glasses for this ride. And the chair motions you. It's a screen that wraps around you, but it's a motion ride, and you're riding a banshee.
That's the future right there,
dude. Man. But the 3D aspect of it, you can't miss it. You have to have the 3D aspect of it.
Dude, and that's perfect towards the Tower Crown, man. Ready Player One.
Yeah,
so...
I think it's about that time.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, my bad. I do not know, guys.
Okay. Unless you guys have anything else to say about Hugo, I think we're about that time to get into the Tower Crown.
Nah, man, I just love your passion, man. I love hearing about that shit. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
My bad. I just said shit. My bad.
I think the only reason why we call this a kids film is because the main protagonist is a kid. But in the end, the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, it could also be an adult, and in the end, I don't think it's really a kids film.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's an adventure film.
This podcast is my attempt to advocate for this film that it's so underrated, and nobody knows this Scorsese picture. Nobody has seen it. Please watch Hugo. It's like they said, it's not necessarily a kids film. It's everything you want to see about a cinematic experience in 2 hours and 9 minutes. You know, it's terrific. It's terrific. So
it's
please,
more than just worth a watch. It'll give you more than that.
Yes, yeah. I really highly advocate. So please watch. And to make it easier on everybody listening out there, it's on Netflix. So just open up Netflix. It's there. How much easier can we make it for you? It's on Netflix right now, and it's been here for 2-3 years. So
it's definitely one of those that I never saw myself coming back to. I mean, it was on the list, but it was just something that got brushed under with all the other movies. But I'm glad that I could see it, and now I want to share it with more people, just because nothing about it's cliche, nothing about it's wasted. It's a very enjoyable just picture to watch and kind of experience some of that magic that I think he was trying to capture, and that the actors and all that wanted you to capture. Because even as somebody who's getting into film, and maybe sometimes I lose the magic of film, it brought back a little bit.
Yeah,
of
it resparks. It resparks.
It's really fun. I was really excited to watch
cinema
this.
all over again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, Mr. Yokomoto, anything else you got to say on Hugo?
I just think Ben Kingsley was robbed.
Say that again?
Say that again?
I just think Ben Kingsley was robbed because he deserved the nomination.
Ben Kingsley was amazing.
Who got it?
I don't even think he got a nod.
He didn't get nominated.
None of the acting got nominated for this film. None of it.
It was pretty good.
Sacha Baron, man.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Did you see that?
The side stories with Baron Cohen, like when he's talking to the cop that comes and picks up the orphans that he captures.
Oh, I love that.
Dude, it's so good. It's so funny. It's fantastic.
So it's yours?
So it's yours. Have you had relations with her in the last year? Oh, no. So you really want her back then? Yeah, I love her.
So you think it's yours now?
Yeah.
And she's back. Well, I think it's kind of weird being the Godfather. Oh, I gotta go, and then just
dude, it's so good. It's so good. Anyways,
but did you see that?
You were.
Oh, my bad.
No, that was it. Anybody else before we?
Sorry, you were gonna make a point.
No, that they just captured. That they're shooting the new Borat 2. They captured.
I saw that. Somebody was filming it. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, just a little sneak peek right there. Better go for it, Yokomoto.
Alrighty. In that case, without further ado, welcome to the Tower Crown.
Woo!
For those of you who don't know, the Tower Crown is a debate show where the debaters don't always exactly know what they're going to be debating for.
Interesting.
So we put up a poll this week over at Facebook, at the In the Mind of Yoko Facebook and the Tower Productions Facebook, and for you to vote. And this time it was about the new era 3D movies.
Oh.
So just to kind of remind people which movies were there, it was Avatar. Ready Player One.
Absolutely.
Life of Pi. And Tron Legacy.
Oh, dude, Tron! Come on, did Tron win at least third or something?
Well, here's the thing. Well, go ahead, Yokomoto.
So the audience voted, and the winners for this poll was Ready Player One and Life of Pi.
Everybody loves cats.
Okay, before we get into this debate, I do want to make it a very clear point. I've heard a countless number of people say that Avatar is overrated, and I want to make a statement that it is not. It's such an innovative.
Okay, hold on. Before you keep going, apart from the camera and the whole, was the story and everything?
Yes, it's
pretty
basically a story. It's basically a
story.
No, wait. It's basically a story of what is it called when you
Colonization.
Of colonization. It's basically a story of colonization.
Yeah, that's what I got. I mean, it's not something.
But the world building of Pandora and the world.
No, it's good. But I'm just saying.
And the fact that this actor, I mean, Sigourney Weaver in this is fantastic too, and this actor playing the twin brother who doesn't walk, and when he's an Avatar, he can walk and he can run, he can do all these amazing. It's such a beautiful story.
That's true. It's just
such a beautiful story.
I feel like.
It just to me, it's not something that I'll watch over and over again. It's not.
I mean, I agree. I'll watch it maybe once a year, you know.
If it's on.
But when I watch it, I'm so immersed in that universe.
I think it was like Gravity. Gravity, the first experience of it is just so powerful, and I mean, really gets you with everything that's happening because it's like a sensory experience. But then later on, once you've had that sensory experience, then you're like, oh well, I know what's gonna happen now. He's gonna wiggle his toes and he's gonna feel something.
The best thing about Gravity is that at least it's an hour and a half shorter than.
I know.
You're an hour and a half shorter.
But dude, we know what's impressive about this film is, and Cameron says this, is like every blade of grass is computer generated.
See, that's the technical wise for sure.
Computer generated. Every blade of grass in this universe. I mean, and then when you're a fan like me and you go to Disney World and you're in Pandora, like,
see, that's cool.
Dude, it's so amazing. And
so
James
was
Cameron,
Sandra just like watching you staring at grass and being like,
pretty much.
They did this.
Dude, I love if you're ever able to go to Disney World and you're ever able to go to Animal Kingdom and Pandora at night. Oh. At night, it's so beautiful, man.
At night?
So amazingly beautiful. Yeah.
Cool.
One thing for sure is that if they were ever to release this in IMAX 3D again, I would definitely go to watch it.
Agreed.
I would put it
hands down
because it is beautiful to watch in an IMAX 3D
the spectacle screen. Of it. Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to make that a comment because everybody and their mother, like, if you're not a film fan, if you're not a Cameron fan, everybody's like, such an overrated film. I didn't like it. I didn't see the point. It's too long. No. By the way, behind me right now, we're seeing the trip to the moon sequence of when they discovered George Méliès as a filmmaker.
Another reason to watch us on YouTube. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Anyways, all right, let's get into it. I'm on the Ready Player One side. I got to side with my man Spielberg.
Started off, Ready Player One is just too good.
It's too good.
Just
what do you mean too good?
Comparing it to Life of Pi?
I'm on Life of Pi's side. Why are you
me
judging
too. Life of Pi is just, to me, it was a big emotion, but
so you're already accepting the L. Hey, Casero, what letter does the name Larry start with? Just take it already, man. Just take the L already.
I think that Ready Player One, man, like, I've gone on record saying this, and everybody's surprised and everybody gives me crap for it. I've gone on record of saying that Ready Player One is my favorite Spielberg film of all time.
Man,
I would have to agree. I got
to stretch for this fight. Give me a second.
Because I know everybody loves the Jurassic Parks and the E.T.s and the Jaws, but I think Spielberg did something so special with this film. And if you've read the book, which I've tried to usher people to read the book is way different. It's so different. But Ernest Cline, the writer of the book, him and Spielberg worked together to create this world on cinema. They shot a Ready Player One in the same stages that they shot the Harry Potter films in London. And if you see the behind the scenes, Spielberg's having the time of his life with just his personal little monitor, building this world and directing the actors. And there's nothing but a white floor and white walls in the studio, and they're still building this world. And the fact that all of the 80s kind of popular culture that they were able to bring back for it, the DeLorean, and the fact that Parzival, the high five of it all, like all of the characters are so great and so fun and dynamic. I hadn't felt that feeling from a Spielberg film in a long time.
Oh, I got you then. I got you for Life of Pi then with that. But did you cry?
No, well, not necessarily.
One point for Eric.
But I don't think Ready Player One is supposed to make you cry. I think it's supposed to make you feel adventure and wonder and immerse you in this futuristic world that we are heading to.
For sure.
I remember telling Austin, I mean, this was another one of those films that I saw at least 3 or 4 times in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Austin when for the longest time, way back when, he tried to get me to play Fortnite. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not into it. I'm not going to do it. And then when he finally, he installed it in my PlayStation so I could give it a shot, it reminded me of Ready Player One. And that's the only reason, that's kind of what stuck me to it, is like being the avatar that you could build out and you could kind of manipulate in an open world. That's what reminded me of Ready Player One. And I think everything about this film, Olivia, what's your last name? Olivia.
What?
The main character got blackfish too, dude. So that sucks.
The girl who plays
Catfish.
Olivia Cook.
Olivia Cook is great in this. I love her. I think she's a really good actress. Ty Sheridan, as Parzival, man. He used a lot of actors that we'd never really seen before, at least on the forefront. The one that plays H too, she's become a very talented actress. She came out in Aziz Ansari's show, Master of None, and she's very good in that. Simon Pegg as Ogden Morrow, it's just genius, man. All of the casting for this film is genius. The world building is genius. The direction is genius.
All you need is one character and one fictional character right there, man.
All right. What's your side on Life of Pi?
All right, for the Life of Pi, for me, before the logos, dude, I just love the story of a kid that he loses the family in a boat accident, and he's stuck in a boat with a tiger, something that could eat you.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful story of how hunger and desperation turns that into, they're both animals in the middle of the ocean, And then towards the end, it's just beautiful that they make it to the island, and the tiger doesn't attack. He just looks back and is like, "All right, man," and he just walks away. It's beautiful, dude. I cried so much.
I'll go on the same line as
I don't know the logistics with this, this guy with where they filmed it and how they filmed it.
No. As far as what Castro was saying, I mean, you can say yes. Ready Player One did a very good job with the technology and everything at the time to build a world, but film, I think, also has the power to build the emotional story and the human connection behind things. And I really felt that with Life of Pi. I mean, it's not just a story of him trying to overcome this intense challenge, and also the actor. I'm gonna butcher the name. Suraj Sharma. Yeah, I'm pretty close. But I mean, he did a really fantastic job of selling the emotion and the feelings and the fears for it only being him there. I know that you can say the same with Ready Player One, but I feel like
I think it's impressive. I think it's impressive to be able to tell a story with one actor on location. It's impressive when you're able to do that. Something like Castaway that Tom Hanks did.
Oh, yeah.
You're able to do something like that. It's very impressive. And Ang Lee is a very talented director. You can't deny Ang Lee's talent. However, I do think that the story for Ready Player One is, in my opinion, the definition of why people should keep going to the movies. It's the reason to go to the movies. It's the reason to go in there and be immersed in the story and be immersed in the film and come out feeling like, man, that was an adventure and that was great.
But it's still fiction. This is so real still.
Yeah, there's having an adventure, there's experiencing that where you go in and you felt like you went through an experience, but then there's also the films that really make you kind of question things. I mean, this whole underlying text of, was it a tiger that I was stuck with, or was it people there on a boat that it was and it's it all came to the same conclusion, but what would you rather believe? And that whole metaphor of all the religions of the world,
kind of like the Shutter Island before, where it's would you rather live as a monster or die as a good man or whatever?
Yeah,
I get that. But here's the thing: if we're arguing 3D films, you're gonna have a better time watching Ready Player One in 3D than Life of Pi.
But I will say that the shots, especially the ones where you're seeing the reflection of him isolated on the ocean, the way it was captured, I think had a lot of emotional weight to it. Ready Player One, I mean, you're kind of thrown into this, light show spectacle of characters that you've seen. I mean, like the Mandalorian, the Ghostbusters truck.
Oh.
You're seeing all these different things come at you. So visually, sensory, it's a lot coming at you. It's really exciting, and yeah, it sells the aspect of it being an adventure. But I don't think
that's just one scene, though. I think the backstories of the backstories of Mark Rylance' character James Halliday, and how he was a loner and he decided to build this oasis because of his backstory of never loving a woman and never having the experiences that other people had, and how Ty's character Wade Watts's experience of like his parent, he's an orphan and he lives with an aunt who doesn't care for him, and the boyfriend's very abusive and hits him, and the fact that this escape of this new world makes him feel like he's important, like he's somebody, and especially after he starts winning the challenges because of his obsession and his passion for the Oasis. I think it's just so heartwarming, and Mark Rylance, man, he was a new favorite of mine, and he came out in Spielberg films like The Bridge of Spies, and he played the BFG and Spielberg's The BFG, and Mark Rylance's sensibilities to be able to capture these heartwarming characters is just amazing.
But I'm talking about like real emotion. Like it's still
real emotion.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it still goes into the Ready Player One. Still goes into the fantasy.
Yeah,
this is a situation that could happen. Are you gonna mentally psych yourself out that this is a tiger? It's just another human being. Am I gonna kill him for food?
No, and then Life of Pi did more with less. I feel like it used 3D as a tool to add realism to the scenario that he's just alone, isolated on this boat.
I could have seen Life of Pi without it being 3D. That didn't make a difference for me. I don't know that made any difference.
I feel what it did is that it used the technology as a tool, not to completely throw everything into this kind of 3D realm, but selling a shot that I think would have been harder to do otherwise. Yeah. And now that I've seen it, I feel like it shows that as a filmmaker, this tool can help emphasize certain moments. Sure. But it doesn't need to be everything. It doesn't need to be the entire film, because I think early filmmakers might get in and think, well, if more CG's there, I can build these worlds better, which Ready Player One did. It built an immersive world, but this built the human connection and emotion to the scenes.
Beautifully argued.
No.
Yes.
You ladies done talking? Because I'm about to crush the Laos.
Oh, sir, editor coming into the... Okay.
Hey, you only people on camera, please. Okay.
You scared or what?
This mystery scares me, dude.
Okay. So here's the deal.
I'll be naked back.
Ready Player One is the better film in this argument here, and I'll let you know why. Ready Player One has that relatability in the film to any person who believes, they're in the slums, they're dog shit, they have nothing in the world, but you build your way up going through whatever you can to become at the top of whatever you want to do. So in Ready Player One, he goes through, this entire journey of going through, starting off from nothing, meets these people online, his friends, and is able to go ahead and take that hero journey to the end.
You got catfished.
In life, no, he did not get catfished. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
So in reality, when you put the two stories together, which ones as a human are you going to connect more to?
Okay, I'll say.
Are you going to connect more to the hero story, or are you going to connect more to Life of Pi?
Ready Player One does what every other film does, which it creates a more relatable version of the hero's journey. I mean, that's all it is. They're
okay, yes, you're right. But which film do you relate more to?
The survival.
No, I think you can relate to either of these films.
What's going on in Ready Player One?
You can.
When have you guys ever been in a moment where you have to rely on survival?
It's not only survival. It's also the idea of religion and the idea of like, how do you want to interpret the world? How do you want to interpret these stories that help you define how you should be living? I mean, this is dealing with also how do you define your own moral code? Like, what's right, what's wrong? Do I kill the tiger? Do I feed myself?
Exactly.
Wade Watts does the same exact thing in Ready Player One. He has multiple times where he has to go through his own moral code.
But that's just the hero's journey. This one wasn't trying to go through a hero's journey. This was trying to ask you, think about where you develop your morals from, where you develop your identity from, and then also know that other people develop their own identities in a different story, but that doesn't make them any different from you.
It really excites me when a filmmaker, on the filmmaking aspect of it, when a filmmaker is rejuvenated through a story, and that's exactly what I saw Ready Player One in for Spielberg. he's rejuvenated. He found his grip again. He found his storytelling sensibilities again with Ready Player One, and everything. Like right now Spielberg is doing a musical. He's doing West Side Story, and that's just, you find your rejuvenation through stories like that. And I think that the first time Spielberg picked up the book, that's exactly what he found through this story. Is like, oh man, like I'm excited about this story. I'm excited to tell this story in the forum that I can tell, and I don't know that. I think Ang Lee has a good film every 10 years, and before this, it was what, Brokeback Mountain, maybe.
We're just talking about these two films, man. Let's not go into the history.
I mean, I'm talking about the filmmaker and how the filmmaker has everything to do with telling the compelling story that you connect to, whether that's Ready Player One or Life of Pi. And I think for Ready Player One, I agree 110% with Austin.
Of course.
I relate more to the kid in the bedroom that doesn't know who he wants to be in life than the kid who has to keep questioning, am I doing the right thing?
I just felt that Life of Pi gave me the kind of conversations that continue to this day beyond what the film had. I think Ready Player One, it's a fun movie, and I went into it and I had fun. Maybe I related to the emotions of the character, and that's what sold the story. But afterwards, I'm not asking myself questions of purpose and meaning and morality because of, him like basically having a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory story of now owning the Oasis,
Right.
That's such a beautiful story.
Like, you're replayed, you're hatched, okay? Like, it's done. We've seen it.
I love that you mentioned the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing aspect to it, because it's our generation's kind of version of that, where kids can believe like, oh, if you're really passionate about something, if you're really passionate about what you love, if you're passionate about the Oasis and that's the only thing in life you really want to pursue, you too can win that competition. You too can be that guy.
It's something that we've seen.
Plus, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, there's no indication that the winner gets the factory. They just get a big prize. They don't know what they're getting. And this one, it's very clear. You get the keys to the Oasis, man. And everybody, especially corrupted, terrible people in the world, want to corruptly get this thing. Where Parzival just has every intention for the world that he's built around them. He has every good intention to keep it going. And then he learns a valuable lesson where, it's all great to be living in this world, but I also want to be with my girlfriend outside. We're going to close the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And
I think for our generation,
that's not fantasy though.
For our generation,
which is beautiful, but this is more realistic. That's what I'm saying.
For our generation, this the Ready Player One definitely did a good job of like capturing elements that we can relate to, we understand, and that it's about the game. It's not about getting to the end. It's just about playing the game and appreciating what you have now. But I feel like that's a retelling of stories that we've seen before, and that's not something that every audience relates to. I know my parents didn't feel like I should play the game more. Like that wasn't something that came to them. But Life of Pi was a conversation. It was something that the story in itself and the way
how is Life of Pi? How did you relate to Life of Pi any more than you related to the Jungle Book? I mean, you don't. There's no.
But that's what happens. You're looking at it from the surface, and at the surface, sure, it's a guy on a boat with a tiger and trying to survive. But it's the ideas of identity, religion. Where are you picking up these stories from? I mean, we've all, I think, at least in our society, a lot of us are Christians, and we have our internal story that tells us, okay, this is why I'm a good person. This is why I believe this. This is why I believe that. And sometimes we don't understand why other people believe about multiple gods and different things. And this story kind of says we all have different ways of interpreting the world, but we're all getting to the same place. And that's a conversation that I've had with multiple people, and watching this film re-sparks that conversation. I think as a film by itself that I want to have longevity with it, I think this one I'll come back to more than Ready Player One. I'll show it to somebody for the first time and appreciate it with them.
Yeah.
But this one's for the conversation piece. This is something that I think the 3D, the elements,
the philosophical aspects of life is what attracts you more, and that's fair. That's fair on the moral level, right? But I guess let me put it to you this way: the questions that, like, it's one of the discussions Austin and I get into a lot, and we'll talk about it soon on this podcast. Is he prefers Citizen Kane? I prefer Casablanca. Citizen Kane has a lot more like philosophical questions to it, and it has a lot more kind of deeper meaning to what the story they're trying to tell. Casablanca for me is just the classic film that you want to watch in the cinema and the classic experience that you want to have going into when you go to any film, whether it's a sci-fi film or not, or whether it's a 3D film or not. The story for me, it's again, that feeling that Hugo gave me. It makes me feel like a kid again. It makes me feel like I can enjoy this experience and be touched by these characters and revisit this, because I revisited Ready Player One a countless number of times. So
I just think
I just revisited for the visuals.
This film, I think, did a lot more with less, and it's impressive to see what they were able to accomplish. And then they didn't just use, I guess, CGI and 3D as an element that, like, oh, it's just another addition to the film. It's also something
all
that
said that, eh? Not me.
Cinematically, you know, there's shots that they created that really show that disconnect between the two characters, or the connection, and that all was made artificially. The tiger wasn't any closer or wasn't any further away, but they understood, how can we tell this visually? How can we show the character's emotions?
To that point, they did less with more on a blue screen with an animatronic boat, but Ready Player One did more with less, in terms of like having to start from scratch and build this world from nothing.
Come on.
You know
what I was trying to say, though.
Life of Pi is based on like the actual world, whereas Ready Player One was constructed various virtual worlds, you know. I just think the innovation, and not just the innovation, the creativity of Ready Player One beats out both story-wise and aesthetically.
No, like De La said, I'll watch Ready Player One for the visuals. I'll watch Life of Pi for the conversation.
All right, Yokomoto. I think you got a good basis here. I don't know.
Just one more thing before I decide. It's kind of close. Since we are talking about 3D, do you guys want to elaborate a little bit more on what the 3D does to each film?
That's true. We just talked about the...
I think we did.
It's because 3D for sure, Ready Player One.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because it just came into passing. And
I'll let you go.
Who do you want to go? Okay.
I'll let you guys go first.
Okay.
3D.
I'll say that the 3D did this.
Just go first.
When you're dealing with when you're dealing with a story that does have a rather unrealistic scenario,
there we go.
And you're trying to, put people in it, where initially all the scenes before it with people on a boat, with a family, him going into different churches and all that, you're creating the world of, this is supposed to be real. And obviously the 3D needs to come in and not feel like, oh, we're going from something that's very real to like something that's, a fantasy and could never happen in a million years. The 3D here, I think, did a good job of giving that gap and connecting people with the situation of the character, and also with the acting of the character. Wait,
I have to disagree.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, continue.
No, I think the acting of this actor, really selling the effect, the 3D wrapping the audience in that world and allowing them to connect with something that otherwise wouldn't have fit into the story with technology of the past. I think it really did that. It used it as a tool not to create some elaborate spectacle that people could come into and, oh, wow, visually it's incredible. It really just wanted you to see the story and see the emotion of the person at that time. It used the tool when it was needed, but didn't overemphasize it. And that's at least my argument on the 3D of the film.
Perfectly said, dude.
Okay, I think I do have to disagree with that, because...
Hey, wait, don't undermine my point. What's your point?
No.
This is his time.
Okay. I didn't bash your film.
I mean it in the sense that in Ready Player One, whenever we see the real moments, whenever we're outside of the Oasis, especially when Wade is in the stacks in his home, and when he's traveling to like his own private little bunker inside a van that he has, and when he's coming down, the opening sequence of him coming down from the stacks, that's all built in the real world. That's all realism. In fact, most of it was shot very practically, believe it or not. But the 3D aspect of these features bring out, even in the real world, what we need to see. And I think it's between what you need and what you don't need. I think Life of Pi would have been the same compelling story without the 3D. I think with
a real tiger, how are you gonna pull that off?
It's been pulled off before Life of Pi.
Just keep having them there, and for 10 minutes, and the next.
Well, it's been 3D is not the same as just CGI. We're not talking about that part.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for a tool like CGI, it's what year was Life of Pi?
I have it here on my notes.
2012.
2012.
2012. I think it allowed for the ability, something like what Life of Pi did, allowed for the ability of the CGI to be emphasized, especially for future films like Jon Favreau's films, like The Jungle Book. When he did The Jungle Book and when he was able to create, or The Lion King with animals, I think it did push the medium forward that way. But Ready Player One already used something, the mix between animation, CGI, and live action, and 3D connects these three things. It blends them very well. If there's anything that 3D does for Life of Pi is just make it look fancier.
Not at all.
Whereas if Ready Player One, it needs the 3D aspect of it to tell the story the way the story should be told. Life of Pi doesn't need to be told in 3D. It doesn't do anything for it.
It puts you in the perspective of being with the tiger. The 3D.
Yes. It creates connection. It only comes in when we really need it, which is
right in front of you.
It creates that connection.
It gives you a good perspective.
No, it isn't.
Look, I want to make an emphasis on Carlos's point. I saw Ready Player One multiple times and I refused to see it in 3D. But watching in 3D just completely changed the whole viewing.
I had
of
to
it.
convince him to watch in the 3D because it's a whole.
And
other
it's not the
experience.
same film when it's in 3D. It's even
You guys
better.
ever hit a tiger? It's freaking scary.
Okay, what?
That's
Give
the
me
closest you're gonna
a scene. Give me a scene that you feel told the story better when it was in 3D, and don't just say the whole film.
No, easy. The scene where we see Parzival winning the final game. The gates open. We get to see him with Anorak or Mark Rylance's character.
Yeah.
Where we get to see the egg. We get to see the egg, and we get to see the contract signing. We see all the riches, and then he realizes, no, you wouldn't have done this. This is fake. I'm not signing it, and he backs away. And then we get to see him in the room, his childhood bedroom. All of that sequence from the shiny riches, the shiny big kind of a spectacle of what he thinks he wants the winner to see versus, oh, you know the real me. You're in my childhood bedroom and you can see all of the aspects of my childhood bedroom through the lens of 3D.
Here's my argument. My argument is that with the whole movie, you already know that you're going to be watching a film that has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with where we're currently living. I mean, it's going to sell you a fantasy story.
It's grounded in reality.
No, but here's the thing.
It's grounded in reality.
I think Life of Pi uses 3D to its advantage, where it says, we're going to give you a story that it's meant to feel like a realistic scenario. It's meant to be
a realistic scenario. When do you ever find yourself on a boat with the lion?
It's more.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing.
If anything, Ready Player One is more realistic of happening in the near future.
It took.
This is more realistic than that.
It took a concept that would have been abstract. It would have been too much, and it tried to ground it in realism, and it tried to make you see the emotion and intensity. Because otherwise, if it was a really like crappy like 3D animated like or 3D effect for like the tiger coming at you, we wouldn't have been able to feel the emotion of the character.
I think Ready Player One was more grounded in reality in the sense that just because it's a virtual world, those virtual worlds do exist on online and playing video games, and
but he's in the stacks. That doesn't exist. Like you already know you're going to be in a film that deals with something that doesn't exist. You're going to go on a hero's journey.
If you've ever lived in a trailer park, you know that the stacks aren't that far off. Honestly. That really like.
And I'm sorry, I find that more believable than being in a boat with the tiger and the tiger not eating you.
So where in the world can you go to that Parzival thing? Where is it?
At any role-playing server online, really.
Really, you can really be immersed like that?
I mean,
dude. Let's be honest. That's more realistic than happening in a couple of years.
Dude, go to any lake and get a tiger. You could do that right now.
Yeah, and it'd probably eat your face off.
Exactly.
But no. Look. I get that, and Austin, I think you should kind of get that too, in the sense that the moral side of it, the twist of is it a real tiger or was it somebody that I didn't want to? I get that. Yeah. I get that, and that's what's very precious about that film. But to say that Ready Player One isn't grounded in reality is to say that the emotions that we connect to with these characters aren't grounded in reality. They are.
I just think that the 3D of Life of Pi was there to sell the intensity. It was there to sell the emotion. And then after that, it really kept its ground in the story and what it was trying to tell. It was there when it was necessary.
It didn't make
as opposed to, I think, Ready Player One, everything's in 3D, everything's popping at you, and it's just meant to be a visual spectacle.
It didn't make a difference for me in Life of Pi, but in Ready Player One, I saw it with and I saw it without, and with always made the bigger difference to experience that film.
You just saw more glitter on the screen. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're lucky this isn't in person because I would have swung already at somebody.
Okay, Christian, we're getting ready to whack.
You want this fantasy crap or this real survival stuff? What is it?
Okay, I gotta say, this one in a while has been a bit one of the more heated ones.
Yes, it has.
I mean, even having an Austin kind of.
I know, come out from the depths.
I know.
Of hell.
Still hasn't read the book that I've lent him, but yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm like on chapter 15 or 16 of the audiobook.
Chapter or page?
Chapter.
Page.
All right, Yokomoto.
Okay.
Word.
But I gotta this debate out of all, this is the one that I had to write a hell of a lot of notes on this.
I love it.
It goes all over the place. And I mean, it's difficult for me right now because it is two very different points.
It's just two very different movies. It's not like we're talking about two movies
definitely.
You know what I'm saying? It's one with a lot.
And both of you come at it a different way. And dang, okay. Let's see.
Hey, Yokomoto, you can't be biased.
Okay, everybody quiet.
No.
It's not about. It's about
what the man think.
All right, go for it.
Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Ready?
I love this scene.
Hey, Yoko, remember who picked that one for you?
Shut up.
Okay, so going after my notes here, going after the pluses and the minuses, and the main point of each conversation.
The suspense is killing me.
It's gonna be Ready Player One.
Let's go, dude.
Let's go. Why, Christian?
Let's go.
He likes shiny things. That's why.
Does he like shiny things?
Okay, what was the one point that it had over that tie?
You weren't arguing with it at all.
And part of it, what it was that you did bring out a lot of the whole thing of the. I guess you made it more interesting in the whole thing of the fun and nostalgia factor, and what it is to like that world in 3D. That's what I kind of saw more selling a bit more on the point for this movie. While Life of Pi, I mean, to tell the truth, Life of Pi is my favorite one here.
So what?
Because he can't be biased. Because he can't be biased.
No.
That's a big. It's just like it was very close. And
so why go with Ready Player One?
I kind of went with the thing that kind of tipped it over a bit more was your arguments on the 3D factor of it. And the 3D factor of it, your points, Carlos, with again with this that it needs the 3D. It was a bit more stronger than what it was with the light.
So a shiny movie needs more shine.
I feel like Bilal's gonna whack me tonight. Like he's gonna kill me.
No, like honestly,
he's got that stare, man. I'm about to punch.
Here's what happens. Honestly, I'm just glad that I could at least you could say it was close because I'll say that Ready Player One has that element of it's so 3D heavy, and I mean for everybody who saw it in 3D, they thought it was amazing. And wherever you are on the spectrum, if you saw it, you just thought, wow, that was a really good film. Life of Pi is one of those that I had to drag people, so it's like you got to watch it. We got to talk about it.
I want to make it very clear. When I was 2012, 2013, when I was graduating high school, that's when I really, really heavily started falling in love with cinema and watching cinema. And Life of Pi was right there. Life of Pi was probably my favorite film of that year. And I bought it. I remember buying it, or maybe Sandra bought it for me. And I remember loving that film, and I haven't revisited it in a few years, I got to tell you. But I think it's that same kind of aspect. Like Ready Player One, I revisited at least once a year. it just excites me to rewatch that
for
film.
2 years.
Oh, I mean, but since I've seen it, I revisited it.
No,
like,
yeah, I get you.
every like very, very consistently.
Yeah.
And Life of Pi, I haven't seen in years. Man.
For me, I think, you know, if you're arguing 3D and the fact that more people chose it, I just think it's because Life of Pi, if you gave it that chance, it had such a heavy impact, and I don't think it's because of the 3D necessarily. I think it helped if you saw it in that, but it's because the story was just so heavy and so strong, and you really felt like, I want to kind of decrypt this with other people where I can look at myself and I could say, I'm feeling this way or feeling that way.
To your point, Alao, I agree 110% with you that the Life of Pi is the film that makes you think more. I agree with you. I think it is philosophical. I think it is morally questionable. Like, what would you do? And I feel you. I agree
more real.
I don't really, if I'm being honest, I don't care if Life of Pi was an animated film, I probably would have gotten the same effect. I don't care about the realism. I care about the situation that you're placed in. Like, if morally you're questioning whether what would you do?
So if you're arguing with 3D, I think Ready Player One did something really impressive. I think it wasn't a film that tried to use 3D as a gimmick. And I mean, there's a lot of films that you see that it just says also in 3D, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Ready Player One, Avatar, Hugo, all of these films that we're talking about, even How to Train Your Dragon, like, these are films that are the perfect example of how to use 3D in a good way, in a
non-gimmick. Legacy with the other contender here.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen Tron, so
the story might not be the best. It's not the best story, but the way it looks and when I saw it in 3D was really impressive. Yeah. Again, had to do a lot with the lighting. The lighting gives a lot of aspects to give it all these different depths.
I mean, I can't deny that front, and for that reason, I can't deny that Life of Pi is an absolutely terrific film.
So I'm honestly just glad that it got close, because I thought it was going to be like just a landslide. But hey, I threw every point I could think of.
Oh, you had a good argument, man. I was with you.
And again, like, if it wasn't because I have to like get rid of my biases and just become neutral, because again, Life of Pi I think was way more impressive. And the 3D, a lot of 3D in it.
The 3D element
was just so memorable when I saw it in 3D. And
at the time, it really sold, like, you're gonna feel like you're there. I remember the trailers even like had the tiger kind of like clawing at the screen, but then like swiping past the letters, and it was really cool because it was in that early stage that, you know, you were seeing what good 3D could be, you know, and what it built up to. I think. For Ready Player One, it came out at a good time where just it showed the evolution of it and how good it has gotten.
Genius, dude.
I mean, we're talking about 6 years apart, and then that's impressive on both fronts. But
there's this one shot of Life of Pi that always remember is when the ship has sunk and you see him like drifting in the water. And you just see like all the ship way far at the end, and everything just going down. You just see Pi. You just see him like right in the center of you, and with that dimension that it had, it was really good.
Yeah,
We're talking about Life of Pi, Yokomoto, not Titanic, man. Come on, let's go.
That's another good shot too, right there.
But guys, really good debate.
Yeah,
it was good.
Fantastic debate. All right, guys. I think we're getting ready to wrap this episode up. We're at 1:45, and I'm sure our listeners are like, all right.
I would have gotten slaughtered without the law, dude.
It's so fitting that the film that I chose is the longest episode because I talk a lot. So thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sticking around.
Do we have time for Cable Guy? I don't know if we do.
Yeah, you
guys keep doing this to me every single episode.
We went over on our time limit. Our producers are getting mad at us because we're over on the time limit. No, but yeah, we want to thank.
Peace.
Want to thank everybody for being on the show today. Thank you guys for talking about one of my all-time favorite films, which is Martin Scorsese's Hugo.
Thank you.
I love the film. I'm so happy that everybody. Especially the Lao and Castro, who've never seen it before, like that you experienced it the way you did and you loved it, and that's awesome because it's a film I'm always going to revisit just to capture that feeling and fall in love with cinema all over again. So thank you guys for checking it out. And if you're at home, please watch it on Netflix. Give the master his credit that he deserves, Marty, and be on the lookout for his next project. Guys, anything else you guys want to say before signing off?
You don't want to give him a teaser for next week? Just a quick teaser before.
What's up for debate on next week?
Yeah, we're still.
Oh, but the movie.
Yeah, but we don't have it yet, sir. You have to text us your movie, Castro.
Oh,
jeez. No, oh my God.
Yeah, I'll think of one though.
All right, but tune in next week. We're actually very excited. We're going to be also be getting into some October Halloween type of films pretty soon. So you're going to be catching some of that. We'll have some special guests for that too. Anybody else, guys? Anything else you guys want to give a shout out to before we sign off, or anything on Hugo?
I think
just remember to follow me on In the Mind of Yoko for the polls, and also Tower Productions page as well, that way you can participate. Yep. And just remember, comment on YouTube, on Facebook. Tell us what movies do you think we should do next,
and who the real winner for the Tower Crown was.
Yeah,
Ready Player One.
Very true.
All right, cool deal, guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you guys. Keep buying keep buying physical copies of cinema, please.
Or
bring your books
and keep suggesting film studs. We love this. We love reviewing films. We love watching films, and we encourage you to please, especially in this current pandemic, watch cinema and appreciate cinema for what it really truly is. You won't go back on it. I promise you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in on this episode of the WatchTower, and we will see you next time.